right. So, what up, what up? So, we have a project titled Body by Ever After, and I decided that I'm just going to do a little mix down and how I might tackle. It's a very simple track in terms of the parts. There's only a few main parts to the instrumental, and then there's some vocal parts. So I thought it'd be cool to kind of like go through and and mix it and kind of address what I'm doing for this artist and how I'm mixing the project and that type of thing. So let's dive into it. I already kind of started organizing some stuff, and then I realized why not hit record and kind of get it done. So as we're going through this, if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment or hit me with the goods, and I'll do what I can to answer you. As always, I like to preface that whatever I'm mixing or mastering, if I'm doing it in the cans, it's never the final result. So I'm always reviewing things in my studio monitor setup and trying to get the most out of it. So as I go through the process, a lot of it's just a brain dump, and it's me kind of working at an efficient pace. And the song's not super complicated. I'm not going to try to tackle the full mix down. Rather than I will do a first version of the mix, which I will then revisit at a later time. I never like to do a full mix in one session in general, unless I'm pressed for time and somebody needs something immediately. So again, this is the track titled Body by Ever After. It's going to be a single coming out on Catch the Ghost Records. So Ever After is a singer-songwriter. She's also a producer, and she's producing everything herself with this track. She has a really unique approach in how she not only does her productions, but also really more of a vocalist songwriter. And she just has a super unique take on things, and it's kind of refreshing to get out of the box a little bit. This isn't necessarily house music. It's kind of like avant-garde dance music. I always kind of relate to her stuff as being kind of like its own spin on Little Dragon, but it's not Little Dragon. So let's get into it. I already started kind of organizing myself before I hit record, so I'm going to do that now. Just continue to organize with the vocal tracks as we move into them. But I'm going to start with trying to address what I hear between the kick and the main beat loop. She's given me some stems, project stems rather than individual stems. So I don't have the kick separated. I just have everything all together, which sometimes doing stem mixing or bus mixing is what I have to do for a client. So this is going to listen to it and see what issues I'm hearing between the low end frequency, which is what I'm going to try to correct first. So the kick is present, but it's kind of muddy in between the bass because the bass is like constantly going. It's also very clicky. I'm going to see what it sounds like if I maybe sidechain some of the low end, and it's just something I'm going to try. So since I don't have a kick, the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to make a bus for this beat, and I'm going to send the full power of the bus out. Bus 1, and bus 1 is going to be called kick low end. And then I'm going to solo that, so we're listening to the full power of that send. And I'm going to filter out, so see if we can only get the kick. So there's like that's a snare. Yeah, it's a really subby kick. So sound design wise, we're going to try to just grab kind of the punchy part. And then we're going to sidechain this over to our main bus. So I'm going to mute that, as it's going to be used just for the sidechain. And I put my SSL compressor on here. I'm going to run super high ratio, super slow attack, fast release, bring the threshold down. And here we go.
Body, every
Start pulling it back.
body, every body.
Oop, gotta set my sidechain. Completely forgot. I thought I already had this set up. Have to choose the bus that I'm using. So for some reason, the bus is showing that bus 1 is called body 4 main beat loop, even though we named that. I just realized I'm probably covering that up. We named that bus 1, we named it kick low end. Logic's been kind of tripping on me lately. Sometimes the buses show up correctly, sometimes they just show where the send is. So anyways, that's our send. If we were to solo it, we're gonna see, yeah, there it is. It's pumping on the kick now. So so now the kick is coming through, but the low end of the sub, I don't know, it's just not really, it's not making a whole lot of sense. So I'm gonna listen to this transition from this part and see, does it make sense to even use the low end from this main drum loop? Or should I not use the low end from the main drum loop, and should I use the sub from the sub bass and just kind of use that, since it's really clicky and percussively anyways.
Body, everybody.
I'm gonna ignore the vocals for now.
Everybody.
So we're really listening to the drums.
Body.
So very obvious what that's doing. I don't know, it kind of works. See, without the side chain, it's just mud. It's like brr, brr, brr. Yeah, I like it better. Now, if I try now, what happens if I just filter out the low end on that? So I'm going to remove my side chain, and I'm just going to try filtering out the low end and see what that feels like. I could go either way. And a lot of times what I'll do for a client, if we're having like this kind of like design for something simple, I'll give them both options and see what they like. So I'm going to go with the side chain approach, where it's just like ducking the whole bass and getting that pump to that kick. And I'm going to move on. Before I get to the vocals, I'm going to see what's going on with the rest of these drum parts, and then see what's going on with these chords. Try to glue things together, fatten it up. And then the vocals, since it's like the majority of the track and the simplicity, I'll spend a little bit more time there in a second. I'm also, because I'm probably going to have to cut up these vocals, I'm going to get the tempo of the project. Oh, it's already at 110. I might have, or 120. I might have already have done that, so it's all good. You know, it's a little abrasive, a little loud. But like balance wise, it's pretty simple, so it doesn't sound like anything crazy. I'm gonna look at back here and see if this beat loop, this bus has some different parts. Yeah, see, especially back here without that low end sub, it's better that we have the sidechain approach, perhaps. Some 8-bit vibes. I don't know, I'm kind of feeling the dryness. I haven't gotten to the vocal yet, which may change my mind. But what I'm going to do is, before I glue these two a little bit, I am going to run Soothe. I love this plugin. This guy allows me to basically do some resonance control, sibilance control, things that are like stacking frequencies. Allows me to kind of like control those a bit so they're not so bright. And really harsh up here in the sibilance area with those cymbals. So I mean, they're super audible, but there's no reason for them to like hurt your ears, right? So with and without. abrasive. This is going to smooth them out quite a bit, or soothe them. Sounds fine. I'm going to glue these two together. So I'm going to track stack them and put them both in a bus. And we're just going to call it drum bus. And I'm going to put an SSL compressor on them and just do a little bit of gluing just in kind of this area. Everything already kind of sounds really well compressed and put together, so I'm going to be generous with it. I'm going to use really slow attack, really fast release. Only a few decibels. Some makeup gain there. All before and after. You can especially hear it in like the tins, in the tinny, the hi-hat stuff. Things just kind of come together a little bit more. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to saturate these a little bit, because I'm going to everything's so simple it feels a bit sterile. So adding a bit of color sometimes is kind of nice. I'm not going to do any EQing just yet, because I want to, since it's not complicated, I don't want to do anything crazy and then try to balance my voice in some crazy way. Something I've been using a lot in various different ways is this guy. Using it for mastering, for channels, for buses. It's a transistor emulator. Old like iron transistor emulators called True Iron. Super dope. Yeah, let's see what it starts to sound like. Really nice, that color. Lose a little bit of volume, so I'm going to try to trick my ears a little bit. Makes it a little crunchy. Yeah, I like this one. Add some distortion to it. Too much. Yeah, it just kind of like colors it up, huh? I especially like the way it kind of like feels like I like the extra grit that it gives to the bit crushed aspect of the drums. It just doesn't feel so computery. It kind of ends up feeling a little bit more like it is truly like this old kind of analog vibe that's being processed in a digital world. So fucking lame. But anyways, I like that. I'm gonna rock with that. Should I process the bass anymore? All I'm going to do is maybe roll off a little bit of the low end, see if I can make it less rumbly. Not really sure about all the clicking. Looks like I've already kind of did a little bit of that where I was not super happy with that. I could take out the clicking completely using like an RX tool or something like that. I'm going to leave it for now. It is really rumbly. Could try to handle like I could try to handle some of the rumbliness with some transient design, but for now I'm gonna leave it because it's not bad, and I don't want to. It's not complicated enough for me to try to spend a lot of time on. Let's go to these chords. So there's that one. It's like the same thing. kind of doing the same thing, but looks like they have some different stuff going on here. So then they're kind of doubling up. That's fresh. So I'm gonna bust them. I'm gonna keep them together. We're gonna figure out what we can do there. Let's listen to them. We're gonna be listening to them in context with our drums and our bass. A little bit of EQ. I'm gonna filter and then I'm gonna thin these out and kind of get them to where they sound thick, but they're not sucking up all that sub end. Feels a little better. The other thing I'm going to do now is that I've done that is I am going to now take that bit of information and I'm going to apply one knob fatter by Waves. And this guy is basically adding harmonics. And it does more so in the low mids and the low end. It can be really messy if you overdo it, but it can also be super fucking sick if you do it right. It's a nice bit of warmth. Thickens it up a bit, with and without. It's adding some volume, of course, which is easily adjusted for. See, I like that. Now I'm going to apply another EQ. Just basic channel EQ, nothing fancy. I'm going to make sure we still have things under control here. I'm going to suck out a little bit of like 400-ish. Sounds like a little muddy. Just adding like a little bit of, I mean, there's not a whole lot to it, but I just have a feeling if we can control that a little bit, the vocal is probably going to do a lot better, especially the register that she tends to sing in. 400 hertz tends to get a little muddy. Also makes this pop a little bit more. Kind of the sparkly bits. Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna check the stereo image on it. See what we're dealing with in terms of width. Just a 3-band. So I don't want to really affect much under like 300, 400 hertz. Sounds like the delay's causing it to be very wide. Let's see if we can open it up a little bit like that. So not just the delay is wide, but we got some girth now, which is going to really help with the vocal. So especially when we widen out the vocal, having a bit of stereo width in there besides what's going on with delay, it's just going to sound it's going to sound pretty cool. And I'll probably end up doing some side EQ, mid-side EQ on the drums as well. Or it might just, in the mastering process, when I get to the mastering portion, I might just process it, the whole thing, and which will lift the drums and give them some stereo image. So I'm going to call it for now on that. I'm going to leave all that. Now, you know what? I'm also going to saturate this and see what we got with the True Iron. I've just been trying this out on so much shit and seeing if I like it or not. You know, it's adding it's kind of like what the one knob fattener was doing. It's adding a lot of harmonics, a little bit lower, But I'm liking, like, I've noticed that these voicings over here, I feel like they do a better job saturating the top end in a little bit, and they make things a little bit, I don't know, it kind of feels like it thins things out a little bit in a lot of the cases, and then that the coloring is happening more in the upper bands versus over here. It seems like it's either a little bit more gradual and does a lot heavier of a job in the lower bands. And a lot of the times that ends up feeling like it thins things out on this side, but I kind of like how this is sounding. Yeah, and a little bit of crush too. Like, I don't know, it's just makes them fat. Listen to the chain now. Just those few little quick things, without the EQ and without the coloring. Check this out. That's with, and this is without. Yeah, we've lost some volume. But even with the volume all the way up, like even pushing, an additional, what was that, like 8 dBs, we still just don't have the power that we have with this. It's just not even close. Oh, we were here. Yeah, it's so crazy. 6 dBs of gain doesn't even get you that kind of power. If it's just colored right, the right harmonics. Yeah. All right, cool. So now we have the vocal parts. So I need to organize myself around this because I hadn't gotten to those yet. So let's see what we got here. And this is where a lot of the processing things will come into place. So let's go ahead and do this and tidy up. And then what do we have here? So this is the lead.
When my body hits the
We're going to bring all these down. So that's lead vocal, got it. This is what?
body.
See, this is like some kind of body background, and it's already wet. Oops, I meant wet, not effects. Let's see what we got. Body background support, wet. It's kind of already filtered. She already has like her vocal production in mind, so I have to be cognizant of that, right? I don't want to fuck with her idea there. And it looks like the next part starts around here. This looks like this is the old vocal. She had sent me a new vocal, so I'm going to delete that. Going to change my wavelength so I can see these a little better. So that's obviously a harmony. That's another harmony. That's another harmony. These look like they're going with the lead. So let's move these around so I can see a little better. And then what do we have here?
I am not a male 'cause I am man.
This is like supporting background vocal. All right, so let's color code these. Let's use colors of green, shall we? From dark to bright. This is lead vocal B. What is this? Did I not look at that one? I guess I didn't.
When my body hits the floor, I am not a female, but I am all woman.
Is this the same thing? It's just wet?
I am not a female, but I am all woman.
Yeah, it's like an ad. I don't know if she sang. I don't know if she sang the same thing. So we'll go with it, but we might not use it. I can't tell. They're definitely two different takes, it looks like. Yeah, they are. Okay, so we'll see if we can use them together. That's cool. And then, oops. I'm color coding so I can move to my stuff rather quickly. We're going to listen to the harmonies separate. We might end up applying like a similar chain to all this in terms of clarity, and then just processing the lead vocals separate. We'll see how it goes. All right, call that. And then I'm going to start by putting them all on a bus, but this might not be how we rock at first. Just might be how we're doing it for now. So let's start from the beginning. And we're just doing some balancing. Oh, need to help myself out, my mix view. Color tracks by region. Color copies the regions that I puts them down here. Since I collapse these regions, these are buses. You can change the colors of buses. I usually buses the default because I know they're buses, and if I have everything expanded, then I can see like the colors in between. That's just me. You can do whatever the fuck you want, though. You know what I'm saying?
Body, everybody. Body, everybody. Body, everybody.
So it being nice and dry with the vocal production idea that she did, it's cool. I'm probably not going to do a whole lot to that. Maybe some EQing. Sounds like I might need to clean some shit up. Some editing.
Body, everybody.
Yeah, like that. Those little clicks. And it looks like they might happen every so often, which fucking sucks. Let's see if this is just a loop.
Body, every.
Because editing, if it wasn't a loop, then I'd have to edit them all. But I could probably fix this for myself.
Body, everybody.
That's a different take.
Body, everybody.
That's a different take.
Body, everybody.
Different.
Body, everybody.
And then it sounds like that's where we probably loop again. So she looks like she has herself on an 8-bar loop, is what I guess is. So if we're going from here and we do another 8, she'd be here. And then we do another 8, she's here, another 8, she's here, and then she cuts it short. Let's hear it.
Body, everybody.
Yeah.
Body, everybody, everybody.
And then that looks like she cuts that or does something there. So we're going to leave that there. We'll have to figure out what's going on up here. So this is the part of the mix engineering process that no one likes to highlight or do, but this is just a part of the fucking work. Is a lot of the times the cleanup.
Body, everybody.
I should only be listening to this one for right now.
Body.
Yeah. God. Hey, when Logic starts doing crazy shit. Okay.
Everybody.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna sneeze. Excuse me. All right. So, bam. Take out those little tickety tacks. Put a little fade on it. Let's listen here.
Body, everybody. Body,
Good.
everybody.
It's fine.
Body, everybody.
Good.
Body.
And then we start over. So we're gonna take these and we're just gonna leave them as is, and we're just gonna replicate them. And oops, that here. And it looks like we'll use all the way up to there because that's what that is anyways. And let's see what that sounds like. Gonna give this a little bit of a tail, a little bit of a fade in, and then let's see. Are we having the same issue on here? Let's find out.
Body, everybody.
Yeah.
Body, everybody.
It's fine.
Body, everybody.
And then it's bad.
Body, everybody.
It's fine.
Body, everybody.
And then it repeats itself. Okay. So she did the same kind of thing. She did a couple of those bars. but then this continues on here, and it looks like it's the same thing all the way through to here. So we basically need to copy this after we do some tidying up. She's already done some, because you can tell with the looping she's already picked her parts. But the problem is that if you're starting to compress vocals, this is where it really comes into play, right? When you start to compress, you're raising. I don't know if I will compress these much, but it's the little details, and the song is too thin in terms of there's not a lot going on, right? So if we don't make the little adjustments, as we start to polish, those little tiny things start to really pop out, and you really hear them very clearly. So it's a good idea to fix them when necessary. And I'm gonna look to fixing these bits first, but I just kind of wanted to hear it now.
Body, every body, body, every body.
Yeah, it's not perfect, but it works. Okay, let's see what we got here. Looks like it's the same thing for this little section. So we're going to replace it with our section here. There we go. And then let's see. Looks like it's the same thing here again. Well, we need to replace it with those sections. Because I'm just looking at the waveforms, and I can see, because of where those little clicks and pops were, where they're coming into place. Seeing the same thing again, you can kind of see them. This is what I'm looking at, like that pop, and then there's another click that was over here. It's the same thing. She's just copying and pasting to get the result. So simple fixes where we're just using the parts that we cleaned up. And it looks like she did the same thing here on these bottom parts. So let's go ahead and use these. Alright. There we go. And then here looks like the same thing. Da-da-da-da. Now, you as a producer preparing your stuff for a mix engineer, I highly recommend being meticulous, giving yourself a break from your track and going through and doing all this yourself before providing it to the mix engineer. Why? Because it costs you money. So me doing this takes more time, which costs money. Like I just spent however long doing that. It's just not necessary. And I'll potentially fix stuff in here as well. Like I can already see here on the lead, like this garbage that's sitting right there, because I've bumped up the resolution on the waveform, so I can see that. And there's just, it's just about being tidy. Giving little fades. Okay, let's check it out. Let's see how we're sounding as is.
Body, every body, body, every body.
I'm gonna pan these.
Body, every body.
Why not?
Body, every.
Sounds nice.
Body, every body. Body, every body. Body, every body. Body, every.
These could use a bit of EQ, like some of this lower end, kind of do like a little slope where I'm just kind of like shifting it, right? Like making it a little bit brighter by kind of like sloping it, doing a bit of additive and a bit of subtractive. I'm just going to slope them and see how it feels.
Body, every body.
It's nice.
Body, every.
I'm not going to be really picky. This isn't the style of music. This isn't pop. This isn't meant to be like polished like that.
Body,
Just clarity.
body, every body. Body, every body. Body, every body. Body, every body. Body, every body.
So here's where it's like creatively, should she be in front more, or should she be kind of like a supportive role here? I'm gonna go with the supportive role so that when our main vocal comes in, it feels like it's more in front.
Body. Body.
Balance wise.
Body. Everybody.
I heard a mouth thing right there.
Everybody. Body. Everybody. Body. Everybody.
Oh, I'm tripping. Maybe it was on the front of this. We get a little bit of a breath. All right. So now we're going to process this main vocal.
When my body hits the floor,
She's already got some reverb, so she's producing it a bit.
Opens.
It's already compressed.
When my body hits the floor, every door opens. In my mind, humankind, I am not a female, but I am all woman in my mind.
And you can hear the compression because of the little bits of like the mouth texture and stuff, and it's a little bit more even. So I'm not gonna do a whole lot more compression just for the sake of, unless it's really, really needed. Again, she's the producer. I'm just tidying things up. I'm gonna make it sound nice and even and make sure the balance is there. I'm a second set of ears. I'm not here to produce her track, although she welcomes any kind of like additional thoughts I may have to the vocal production, what have you. So I am going to do a bit of EQing,
When my body hits the floor,
but not yet. What I'm going to do now is add a bit of, because of the resonance and where she's going to have a little bit of sibilance, I'm just going to put soothe on there to try to immediately kind of tidy that up.
when my body hits the floor, every door opens. When my body
See, it looks
hits
like it's
the
around here.
floor, every door opens. In my mind,
Soothing it out a bit.
humankind, I am not a female, but I am all woman.
Make
in
sure
my
there's
mind.
no low end nothing.
Humankind,
Some people are against that kind
I
of
am not a female,
general
but
sweeping,
I am
but
all woman.
works for me. Okay, so let's check this out without any of the harmonies, see how we're sitting.
When my body hits the floor, every door opens. When my body hits the floor, every door opens. In my mind, humankind.
Need to give myself a bit more headroom. Just wanted to check my stems. So I'm gonna go, because I'm, even though it looks like in my master channel I have plenty of headroom, it's because I'm using a reference software to try to maintain my level against what I'm hearing, against what's being recorded. So that's why the gain staging looks weird. Like, why do you have so much headroom, but you don't have so much headroom? This is why, my friends, because of the reference software. So I'm going to pull these down like 5 dB, so I have plenty of let's go 4 dB, should be fine.
When my body hits the floor, when my body hits the floor, every door opens. When my body hits the floor, every door opens. In my mind, humankind, I am not a female, but I am.
I'm going to add I'm going to do a bit of tuning on her vocal. She's not out of key or anything, but being a little bit, because she's not, this isn't like a ballad. The tuning helps match, in my opinion, even a little bit helps kind of like straighten stuff out. Because I'm not I don't have the greatest relative pitch. I'm not like some super fantastic musician, what I usually do is load up an electric piano and then find the key of the song and then go from there.
In my body is the flow. Every note once. In my body is the flow. Every note once. In my mind, humankind. I am not a female, but I am all woman in my mind. Humankind. I am not a female, but I am all woman.
Body, everybody.
I every note. In my body is the flow. Every note. In my mind, humankind. I am not a female, but I am all.
B minor. That's what it sounds like to me. Let's find out. I was just playing, figuring it out, and it feels like a B minor, even though I don't know my scales that well. All right, let's go B minor. See how we go.
Every note once. In my body is the flow.
Yep. See, you hit him with the T-Pain, then you know for sure.
In my body is the flow. Every note once. In my body is the flow. Every note once. In my body is the flow. Every note once. In my mind, humankind. I am not a female, but I am all woman in my mind. Humankind.
Just tidies it up a bit. There's a few notes where she's going a bit sharp, which is or a bit flat too, and that's kind of her style. I usually kind of do this with people, and then if they're that kind of singer, has a little more jazzy, where they're constantly adding in sharps and flats, is a part of the style. Sometimes I'll remove it at the end, especially when we're listening to it with harmonies. I'm not going to listen to the backing vocal yet. I'm going to see what these harmonies are doing since everything's stacked up pretty heavy.
When my body hits the flow, every note once. When my body hits the flow, every note once. In my
All right.
When my body hits the flow, every note once.
All right.
When my body hits the flow, every note once. When my body hits the flow, every note once. In my mind, humankind. I am not a female, but I am all woman in my mind. Humankind. I am not a female, but I am all woman.
Every
Harmonies are a little loose, especially these lower ones. I tend to really make sure those things line up a bit better. So I'm going to do some more editing type stuff. And again, if you know how to do this on the vocal production side, you should absolutely do this before you give it to the engineer.
When my body hits the floor.
Kind of try to tidy these up so they don't feel so separated.
When my body hits the floor.
It's better.
When my body hits the floor. Every note.
Like this, super loose, super loose. We want to tidy that up. And we're just gonna have to start shaping all of them. Because as we start to manipulate, we're going to be losing track of as we're trying to line harmonies up, we're going to lose track of the original performance quite a bit. And you just don't want that to be so loose. It just makes for like potentially a really good idea ends up turning into what feels like a sloppy performance. And it's not that it is or it isn't. It's just a matter of fact. When you start to hear things more critically and turned up and balanced well, you really hear the separation in the harmonies.
Every door open when my body hits the floor. Every door opens when my body hits.
Now that I made some adjustments, you can really hear the timing start to fall apart. Because as I'm moving things around, it's not like the lines being pushed. The transients are being pushed farther down in time. These are little itty bitty things that will really polish up the track. I don't know what this is actually doing.
When my body hits the floor.
She's saying hits. Okay,
When my body hits the floor.
it's close already. When it hits the flow,
When my body hits the floor.
Especially-
Body hits the floor. Body hits the floor.
especially tss and k, pf, tss, like all those sounds, if they don't line up, they sound really fucked up.
When my body hits the floor.
Like I feel like this is not working right here.
When my body hits the floor.
Eee, what's going on? Let's see if we can squeeze this in and see if this makes more sense. Might not.
When my body hits the floor.
Oh yeah, it's definitely not right.
When my body hits the floor. When my body hits the floor.
It's not too bad. Oops. All right. Let's see where we're at here.
When my body hits the floor. When my body hits the floor.
See how loose this harmony is here? She's belting. Really losing it there. The idea the harmony gets tossed out the window when they're not in harmony. When they're not in unison.
When my body hits the floor. When my body hits the floor.
When my body hits.
When my body hits the floor. Every door.
It's not too bad. It's not too bad there. I usually don't recommend vibrato and harmonies unless you really have your shit like on lock. Because like you're meaning your vibrato performance is like your fucking trick, and you know how to manipulate that because it can get lost very easy. It's a little more important just to take care of those main bits.
Every door opens.
That little chorusing was kind of nice. I'm gonna line it up a little bit still.
Opens in my mind.
There's some crap here in the recording. I'm not gonna edit it right now. But I normally would take care of that. Just depending on how much we glue these harmonies when we compress them together.
In my mind, humankind,
It's not too bad.
humankind,
But that kind needs to make sure those line up well.
humankind.
There we go.
I am not a female, but I am all woman in my mind. I am not a female, but I am not a female.
Sounds a little wonky.
I am not a female, but I am all woman. I am not a female, but I am all woman in my mind.
I'm gonna remove that because it sounds like she was finding the note.
I am not a female, but I am all woman in my mind.
Oh, yo. Logic, doing things.
I am not a female, but I am.
Female is a little wonky too. Should be more like this.
I am not a female,
There
but
we
I
go.
am all woman in my mind. Humankind.
Once again, we have the consonants being eradicated. Those are really hard things that if we're going to have a harmony for them, we really want to make sure they're spot on.
Woman in my mind. Humankind. I am not a female, but I am all woman.
We can let that go because that might work.
I am not a female, but I am all woman.
Sounds like I just might be messy with those harmony
I am not a
in
female,
there.
but I am feminism.
Nice
I
little
am
pop.
not a female, but I am feminism. I am not a female, but I am feminism.
That goes together. Why not?
I am not a female, but I am all woman.
All right.
I am all woman.
I'll take it.
Where my opens,
Yep.
where my body opens
Yep.
in my mind. Humankind.
All right.
I am not a male, but I'm a man in my mind.
All right.
Humankind.
You. That's a little disruptive. Oops. Let's do it like this. Let's see here. It's probably around here-ish. And here. Let's see how that sounds.
Humankind.
There we go.
I am not a male, but I'm a man.
That I'm going to remove because it just doesn't harmonically make sense.
But I'm a man.
All right. This is the fun stuff, right, guys?
I am not a male, but I am masculine.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Normally I'd be cleaning up all that stuff, all the little bits of fun recording, but I'm not going to do a whole lot right now.
I am not a male.
It's a little too loose. We need to tidy that up.
I am not a male, but I am.
Good, and then she cuts that out, but then unfortunately that creates a poppity pop pop right there.
I am not a male, but I am masculine.
There we go.
I am not a female, but I am all woman.
I'll take it. The woman is a little off, so I'm gonna just adjust that slightly.
I am not a female, but I am all woman.
It's a little better.
I am not a female, but
Sounds like it's a little bit in front.
I am not a female, but I am feminism.
I'll take it. And I'm gonna get rid of the garbage here. Just because she looks like, sounds like she was just editing it. Again, like in the context of the track, when I have the music playing, this might get a little bit more serious.
I am not a male, but I'm a male.
This sounds very sloppy. What's going on here? Oh, yeah. She started a little early. All right. I just eyeball some of the transients, and then I listen, and then there's a smudge right there. So I'm gonna fix that. Looks like she's doing some editing.
I am not a male, but I'm a man.
Not bad.
I am not a female, but I am all woman.
Not bad.
I am not a female, but I am feminism.
Sounds like the same section we did over here.
I am not a female, but I am
Yeah, it's exact same thing. So yeah, so we're just going to do this. And we're going to copy and paste over the top. Okay. All right, so let's get these in place and then let's see what's going on with this second vocal and why it's always there.
When my body hits the floor, every note opens.
So I'm going to take all these guys and put these in their own spot.
When my body hits the floor, every note opens. In my mind, humankind, I am not a female, but I am all woman in my mind. Humankind, I am not a female, but I am all woman.
So I'm just going to glue these together.
I am not a female, but I am all woman. I am not a female, but I am feminism.
Yeah, I'm going to have to
I am not.
I'm gonna have to edit these to get rid of some of those clicks and pops and things. So it's not gonna be for this, but there, all those little smudgies and mouth pieces are definitely gonna have to get taken care of.
When my body hits the floor, every note opens. When my body hits the floor, every note opens. In my mind, humankind, I am not a female, but I am all woman in my mind. Humankind, I am not a female, but I am all woman.
So I balanced the lower one because it has a different body texture, and then the higher one I actually took out some of the high to give room to how high she's singing in the original.
Every note opens. When my body hits the floor, every note opens. In my mind, humankind, I am not a female, but I am all woman in my mind. Humankind, I am not a female, but I am all
And then with the 550B, I'm gonna try to color it a bit.
Every note opens. When my body hits the floor, every note opens. In my mind, humankind, I am not a female, but I am all woman in my mind. Humankind, I am not a female, but I am all woman. When my body hits the floor, every
A little
note
thicker,
opens.
a little more airy.
My body hits the floor, every note opens.
Oh, sorry. Let's see what this background jam was doing.
When my body hits the floor, every note opens. When my body hits the floor,
I think we'll get a better. It sounds like almost like a double delay with some, or not double delay, but could be used like as a slapback to get it to punch through, fill out a little bit. I'm actually just going to put a little bit of a slapback on that vocal, and there's a million ways to do it. You can literally double the vocal and delay it a bit. That's one way to do it, or you could use a plugin. I'm going to use a plugin and EQ it a bit. So I'm going to use Sound Toys and the Echo Boy, and use one of the presets, and use like an analog vocal slapper or like a tape slap, one of those, and then kind of mess with those a bit. 100% wet because this is a bus. I think I like it a little bit slower, like this.
When my body hits the floor, every door opens. When my body hits the floor, every door opens. In my mind, humankind, I am not a female, but I am all woman in my mind.
It's tight, it's kind of retro. I like that vibe.
I am not a female, but I am all woman.
I'm going to compress her vocal a little bit more, just to try and catch some of those peaks. I'll use one of Logic's because she's kind of pushing in certain parts, and when you have the slap back, it's starting to stick out. Oops. I meant to compress the slap back.
When my body hits the floor, every door opens. When my body hits the floor, every door opens. In my mind,
There we go.
humankind, I am not a female, but I am all woman in my mind.
And then I'm going to take the whole vocal bus, and I'm also going to send a bit of room to it, soft room. So it's not going to be a big room because nothing feels spacious, and I'm not going to turn this into like some super deep, spacious sounding thing. So I'm going to put Valhalla, actually I'm going to use the vintage verb, but I'm going to use a modern setting. And I'm going to use like soft, I think they have like a soft room or smooth room. Yeah. And then I'm going to leave the EQ settings as is. I'm going to put this down pretty big still, like 1.5 seconds. And then I'm going to EQ it and see what we can get out of it.
I am not a female, but I am all woman in my mind. Humankind, I am not a female, but I am
So band passing it.
Body, everybody,
I am not a female, but I am all woman.
body, everybody,
I am not a female, but I am feminism. I am not a female, but I am all woman.
It's a little, smooths it out a little bit.
I am all woman. When my body hits the floor.
And I'm going to, with this background vocal thing, I'm going to do basically something very similar where I'm going to send it to a soft room. This one's going to be a little bit, let's see actually.
everybody, body, every,
Yeah, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm not going to send it to the same one because I don't want their frequencies together, and I'm going to use a different room. Because sometimes blending things gives her a better overall thickness in general. Bright room, large room, dark space, dense room. Let's go with dense room. And we'll go with something kind of short. We'll leave it the EQ as is. We're going to EQ over here. We're going to band pass it. So no mud, no sibilance kind of vibes. So it's kind of darkish.
body, body, everybody, body, everybody,
There we go.
body, everybody,
Feels nice. Feels like it belongs there now. It's not just
every,
sitting there in space somewhere.
body, everybody, body,
I'm also going to give that same room there I'm gonna put the drums in the same room. Because just the same parts of the drums, like that weird bandpass area.
body,
So they sound like they're performing together on stage.
body, body, everybody, body, every,
Did I choose the wrong thing? What's going on here? Ah, I sent it into myself. How did I do that? You're supposed to warn me about these dumb mistakes.
body, everybody, body, everybody, body, everybody,
That feels good.
body, everybody, body, everybody, body, everybody, body, everybody.
When my body hits the floor, every door opens. When my body hits the floor, every door opens. In my mind, humankind, I am not a female, but I am all woman. In my mind, humankind, I am not a female, but I am all woman. I am not a female, but I am all woman.
So there's probably some other bits. I'll probably do some saturation, whatever. But for like this kind of time kind of spent, this is usually where I walk away from the project for a little bit in general, kind of come back to it, do some basic rebalancing. Usually I'll at least get through kind of like the rough feels of like where things are being put together. And then I always give myself a break and I come back and I kind of do the same things again, but kind of like quicker little shots of like, does this feel like I'm getting it thick enough? Does this feel like it's sitting right next to each other? Is this a good balance point? And depending on, sometimes you're lucky and your ears are working well and things are feeling really balanced really quickly. Sometimes you kind of have to fight with it a little bit. I definitely need to go in and edit the harmonies a little bit more. I also need to go in and edit the vocals to clean up all the muck that's in them, because there's actually a lot more than I thought. And because this track is so bare, you really start to hear it as things are gluing and as they're kind of being balanced together, and you want it just to sound as clean as possible. So this isn't the finished product, but it's a work in progress, and I think that for what it's worth, in terms of process, this could help. This might help you out. So let me know what you think. If this is something that you're into, no, these videos aren't meant to be edited and cleaned up and really hyper focused on specific things. This is just, a look at like working on like a client's project and how this kind of stuff works for me. This is the kind of project that, because this person is a friend of mine and because I help her with distributing through our record label Catch the Ghost, I can show this kind of stuff, and it's something I can not get my YouTube account fucking banned for it. So comment, let me know what you think. Subscribe if you want to see more of this kind of stuff, fun stuff. Some of it's kind of boring, editing, whatever, but holler at me. Peace and love. Take it easy.